Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to apologize for the lack of Raw coverage. However, if you follow me on Twitter or are on Facebook, or you just kind of sent me a message or commented on a video asking a question, you know John has been without internet for the last 2 days. On Monday, he was getting an internet upgrade, and the technicians, I guess, ran into some kind of a problem, or there was some kind of a weather problem or something like that. I'm not sure. He'll explain further when I give the mic over to him. But he is here. His upgrade is in effect. Hopefully, this means that we won't have any more John sounding like a robot or an android, or the delays where like I'll say something and then 3 seconds later he'll answer, or vice versa, or anything like that, because his internet has been upgraded to, honestly, I think it's pretty much the same package that I have now, 25 down, 5 up. But regardless, John, welcome back. Everyone missed you. We're not here to talk about Raw, but we are here to talk about the big news that came out of Raw.
Yes, guys, first and foremost, I'm so happy to be back, even though it was a brief time that I was off the grid. I missed you guys. I missed doing Raw. I missed being the sexy Johnny scumbag that you all know, love, and are sometimes creeped out by. So, just to explain what happened, on my 24th birthday, we're really excited because, we've been having this issue, as you know, guys, for weeks with the internet, the robot voice, and the delay, and this and that. And me and Ashton, we're too good for that. This is my cohort and commentary. We're the best that ever did it, son. So you know that the internet's got to be on point. So we're thinking, okay, we're going to upgrade. We upgrade. But of course, if it ain't a cosmic kick in the nuts, it ain't happening to John. So we're getting the upgrade, and then all of a sudden things take a real downturn. And really, it wasn't just us. It seemed like a problem in our general area. I think because of weather, to Ashton's point, and fallen trees and that kind of stuff, there was like wire damage. There was exposed copper and things like that. So it was a bigger endeavor than they initially planned. Plus, the layout of our area, I think, actually made other complications arise. But today, I'm back in the game. I kept my finger on the pulse, guys. There is so much I would have liked to have said about this Raw. But of course, I talked to Ashton. We agreed to do a solo commentary on the biggest issue, that being the retirement of Daniel Bryan. Now, I mean, Ashton, you and I texted back and forth. You were filling me in on Raw. And of course, this was the really big news that you hit me with. I mean, what do you think about all this, man, now that it's kind of settled down a little bit and people can really process?
Yeah, for the longest time, I was one of the people that kind of thought that, yeah, Daniel Bryan, he's fine. His head is fine. He's passing all these tests with flying colors, and if Joseph Maroon won't clear him because he's trying to cover his own ass because of this concussion movie that's coming out, and Vince won't buy into any of the doctors that are passing Bryan because Vince doesn't want Bryan to ruin anything that Vince has planned for Roman Reigns or anything like that. But when Bryan talks about, I was actually listening to the Wrestling Observer yesterday, or not yesterday, on Monday, and Meltzer said that on the Thursday before the Royal Rumble, Bryan got a much more extensive test done where they're giving you like an EEG while they're doing reflex testing, and they found a lesion. Now, Meltzer didn't say this, but we found this out from Bryan himself. They found a really small lesion on Bryan's brain, and apparently he's been hiding post-concussion seizures for a really long time. There was actually a video up on the Squared Circle subreddit. I don't know if you remember this, John, but at one point, it was actually his last singles match in the WWE. It was a match with Sheamus, and he got thrown to the outside, and he hit one of the announce tables, and it busted him open. And he was actually bleeding from the head pretty bad. And then Barrett gave him a bullhammer. Barrett was on commentary, and then Bryan was laying on the floor, and he was kind of convulsing a little bit. And a lot of people were convinced, like, oh my God, he's so good at selling and everything. But people are saying now that there's a possibility that that might have been one of the post-concussive seizures that he was talking about.
Very interesting. I could readily buy that theory given what's come out. This whole thing has just been crazy because I'll tell you guys,
Yeah,
I
well, and
was
I apologize for cutting you off, John, but again, they actually cut that match short because Bryan wasn't responding. Sheamus tried going out and grabbing him and throwing him back in the ring, which immediately something was wrong because he's a heel, so why wouldn't he want to win by countout? A doctor came over and was talking to him, and this was all while the ref was counting down, or counting up, I guess, to count Bryan out. and I guess the doctor was talking to Bryan, and Bryan wasn't responsive. So it was pretty good chance that this was one of the seizures he was talking about, because he ended up getting counted out. And I mean, I doubt that was the original plan for the way that match was going to go.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, brother. I mean, to me, this is just insane because he just recently we saw that Tide commercial he did for the Super Bowl, talking
Yeah,
about like everything he overcame. And honestly, dude, now this is how my mind works, me being the buffoon that I am, I guess, because I'm thinking, well, they did that because the next night is Raw. They're going to
in
do something
Seattle.
big where he comes back. Yeah, in
Yeah,
Seattle, and it's going to be big, and they're going to set up his road to WrestleMania. Wow, was that off the mark? I
yeah.
felt really bad about that thought afterwards. 'Cause I'm thinking, oh, this is serious. Like
But
this
you know
this is
what
really
though? I
bad.
think I think that's the thing, John. Like you say, you felt bad. I don't think that there's really any reason to feel bad. You were wrong, yes, but on that same note, as wrestling fans, we have been conditioned to believe that everything is a work until it is very clearly not.
Right,
So
and you,
like
yeah,
even when Bryan tweeted like, "Oh, I'm going to retire tonight," I was very skeptical until I heard what Meltzer said on the Observer about how he got this extra testing done, and Coach tweeted about how it's not a work, and Meltzer was so convinced that this was real. That was like my turning point. I was like, "Oh shit, I guess this is legit. I guess Bryan's actually done. I guess that there's more damage to his brain than we thought." And of course, then we found out from him that there was. And, I think this really comes down to he made the best decision for him. And also, I think that not only was it the best decision for him, John, I think that his decision is going to have really big ramifications on possibly not even just the wrestling business, but definitely that, but also possibly the sports world in general. Like, this honestly kind of reminds me a little bit of like what Chris Borland did. I don't know if you're at all familiar with Chris Borland, but he was a linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers, and he was a rookie in 2014. He had just been drafted in the third round. He played for 1 year. He didn't have any kind of major injuries or anything, but after 1 year, and he was really, really good too. I used Pro Football Focus, and they gave him a pretty resounding positive grade on the season, even though he was just a rookie, which by all means probably means he had a really bright future ahead of him. Retired after 1 season in the NFL out of fear for his brain health.
yeah. To me, Ashton, I think this is a kind of maneuver, from Bryan and from WWE that could be game changing, and really for WWE. I mean, I think they've saved a lot of face here because this is the same company that the media in an instant will attack, for debts, at an early age and this and that.
Yep.
And yet here these guys were so extensive and so conservative in their temperament about letting Bryan go out and perform, and you see that they made the right call. So I think this might actually you would hope anyway, it would have a great effect on policy. I think WWE is going to be a lot more conservative in the future about letting certain guys come back depending on the injury. I'm very happy for him that he's actually able to walk out of the ring on his own power, that
Yeah.
we're able to see him. And look, I'm just going to be straight up about it. My favorite wrestler of all time is Chris Benoit. I think what I'm happiest about for Bryan is that he'll be able to have a legacy, that he didn't get so damaged and he didn't die and, no really morbid thing happened. He'll be able to have his legacy. He'll be able to have his family, and there is a legacy there. Look, as a wrestling fan, as a fan of Bryan and what he did in the ring, it sucks that right when he was on top and he could have really had that run and enjoyed it, the legs got cut out from underneath him and he got injured. But life is a very fragile thing. We say so many times on Twitter, wow, that these, workers, these performers are human beings first with families and friends, to provide for
Yeah.
and that love them. And with that in mind, I think Bryan, he does leave on his own terms because what did he want? He wanted a family with Brie. He wanted to be able to enjoy that next stage of his life one day. Yes, that day came a little bit sooner than he wanted, but he's going to be able to have it. And that's the big thing we have to keep in perspective here. I mean, yeah, as a wrestling fan, I'm gutted because I thought about Bryan and Nakamura, or Bryan versus this guy, or Bryan versus that one. But as
Styles,
a
yeah.
human, yeah, Bryan versus Styles. But as a human being,
Yeah.
this is the only matchup I want to see. Daniel Bryan taking on the world with a family in tow. And, with that, I'm so happy for the man. And, I got to say, it really, the idea that he got to do it in Seattle too, I'm happy about.
Yeah.
His people, man, his fucking people.
And
And
WWE doesn't go up there very often, so they timed this really, really well.
they did. And they gave him, the main event spot, the closing spot, which I felt like, was smart because he got all the time.
That's funny you say that too, because when I was watching Raw last night, I was very annoyed by it because I thought that it was going to lose the crowd. One
Right.
of those things where, like, if you don't address the elephant in the room at the beginning of the show, the crowd is going to force you to do it. But the WWE, to their credit, did a good enough job throughout the show that the crowd didn't really hijack anything. And then, really, in hindsight, it was worth the main event spot.
Yeah.
Even if I would have preferred it to be first at the time, in hindsight, making it the main event was definitely the right call because you can't top that.
You can't.
No one was going to be able to follow that segment.
No. And you know what? It's funny because while I've never been the biggest Daniel Bryan, fan, first of all, his career was phenomenal for what he accomplished.
Yeah.
Second of all, I identify with him so much in the sense that when he was speaking about the fact that he has loved this and this is all he knows how to do. And no wonder he hid the seizures, because when you hear him talk about this business and how much he loves this business, this is his everything.
Mhm.
It's going to be so interesting for him. And again, I'm happy he's able to do it. Let us not lose perspective, guys.
And he's such a great human being too, because, like, even though, like, this is supposed to be about him, this is his retirement, he can talk about himself as much as he wants, he still found a way to plug a freaking charity. The Wigs for Kids thing that he plugged. Like, he's an amazing human being. And I think that Daniel Bryan, the wrestler, was a phenomenal wrestler, but I think Daniel Bryan, the human being, has more to offer the world than Daniel Bryan, the wrestler.
Now that's a soundbite, because I agree with you 110%. I think Daniel Bryan, the human being in good health and having a family, I mean, he can take up environmental causes, he can take up charities, maybe he'll even get slightly political. You never know what the future holds for Bryan. But I think Bryan, the humanitarian, to your point, his best days are ahead of him yet.
Yeah. And we wouldn't have been able to say that if he would have kept going.
And that's exactly, and that's why I keep emphasizing, as much as we may lament the matches that we never got, of the career that we never really got to see when he, won the belt and everything, really take that development, we've got to keep perspective and say that life at the end of the day is the most important thing, and Daniel Bryan still has one. And
you know what, dude? That's another thing too. You mentioned his accomplishments.
Right.
Say what you will about the fact that he was only in the business, or in the WWE. Obviously, he's been in the business for almost 20 years now. But he was only in the WWE for like 6 years.
Right.
But if you look at those 6 years, he won a different title every single year.
Yeah.
He was in the WWE for 6 years, and he held every men's championship that there was to hold in that time.
He was phenomenal. I remember his feud with The Miz when he captured the U.S. Championship.
That was in 2010, I believe.
Yeah. Wasn't Money in the Bank in 2011 a year after? Or was that the...
2011, he won the world title, dude.
Okay. But yeah, didn't he win Money in the Bank then that same year? Because I know it wasn't that much longer.
Yeah, he won Money in the Bank, and that's how he won the world title. He won the world title in December of 2011. And then 2012, I want to say, was tag titles with Kane. 2013, he won the WWE title. 2014, he won the WWE World title. Of course, last year he won the Intercontinental Championship. Daniel Bryan was in the WWE for 6 years, and he won every single championship that he could have possibly won in that time.
I mean, that's stacked. And, I mean, the matches he's had were great. I mean, I think about it, his feud with CM Punk, those technical masterpieces, his SummerSlam match with John Cena,
that was, to me, that was the high point. I mean, really, the high point in his career was WrestleMania 30. No one's going to deny that. But to me, the point that really made him in WWE was that win over Cena, because no one just beat Cena clean. And the crazy thing is, now Bryan's retired, Cena never is going to get that win back either, because we always make fun of John Cena, like, oh, sure, he'll put you over one time, but then he's getting the win back and he's coming for it twice. But he put Bryan over and never had a rematch with him, and he never beat Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, that was the rematch we were all kind of clamoring for, too, because I certainly wanted to see him go again. But yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that. He's never going to get that win back now. And in a way, I think that's kind of its own reward if you're a Bryan fan. Like, you got the last laugh on John Cena.
Yeah.
But, I mean, man, what a human being. what a career. And
Hall of Fame for sure.
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, dude,
hopefully the WWE has a West Coast WrestleMania sometime in the next like 3 or 4 years, because that would be when they would want to induct him. Because I know this year is obviously in Dallas. I think next year is supposed to be in Minnesota. Maybe the following year, although I've heard maybe Florida for the following year. I don't know for sure. I think that they need to find something on the West Coast. Maybe I know that the 49ers have a relatively new stadium. Maybe, just find something over there. Maybe like a San Jose kind of thing. I don't know. Whatever, though, they need to do something on the West Coast, and that year is when they need to induct Bryan into the Hall of Fame. He can be the freaking Hall of Fame main event because luckily his faculties are all still good.
I mean, even if you want to discount the championships and everything, you're talking about a guy who got something over that transcended wrestling. It infiltrated popular culture.
It did, yeah.
And that is such a rarity in our business. I mean, the only other people I can think that really did that were the Rocks and the Austins. So in that kind of vein, yeah. I think Bryan belongs in that conversation.
And you know what? I will give credit where it's due. John Cena earlier in his career, when he did the chain gang stuff, that transcended.
Yes, and you're absolutely right, Ashton. You're absolutely right. I won't try and discredit that. That has a lot of merit.
And even to this day, people do the "you can't see me" thing in pop culture.
Exactly.
I see that a lot in sports, whether it's like NBA games or football games, that kind of stuff. Like, you see the "you can't see me" thing more often than most people would probably like to admit.
I mean, the Yes Chance, for that time, took over the freaking world.
Exactly.
I mean, basketball games, and I think places in other countries, honestly, like I see things, and it's like just a phenomenon. And he did it, and I just think, and how grateful he is to all of us. That's what hit me hard. It's just like, you guys, you don't know me anything, you don't know any of us anything, and I'm like, that's not true, because there is such a high price that you pay for doing this kind of craft, and really,
and especially the way that he did it, with his style being so high impact and high flying stuff and the stiff and the way that he went about his business makes me almost bitter at WWE for not bringing him in earlier, because if they would have kind of worked him into the WWE style, he wouldn't have killed himself on the indies for so many years and damaged his body as much as he did. Yeah, although, then again, we say that, but then he would be in the WWE and working that shit schedule, so maybe it wasn't that great of a trade-off.
I mean, dude, the thing about Daniel Bryan that I respect, and yet I'm glad it was able to be reined in, because, again, to me, I guess as a Benoit fan, some of the parallels, and I want to emphasize some, are just really eerie to me, because both of them were freaking workhorses, and things like that. And Bryan wasn't going to slow down for anything.
I know,
Bryan's
John,
the type of guy.
As huge of a fan of Benoit as you were, you wish he would have done what Bryan did.
Oh my goodness, yes. Are you kidding me? Do you know how it still pains me that he really doesn't have a legacy, or he'll never be in the Hall of Fame? But I'm so happy for Bryan, bringing it back, because I want to keep the focus on him, that he is going to be able to have that, because he deserves it.
Well, and we can even kind of use what you just said to talk about the rest, like the state of the business right now, because if Bryan had as messed up of a brain as he did, what does that say for guys that like I don't know, like Dolph Ziggler with his multiple concussions, or I mean, even worse, The Undertaker? Like, how many dozens of concussions has The Undertaker had in his career?
I know, and you know what, dude? I'm just thankful that we're in an age where brain science has really put concussion, at the forefront, and we really now know the severity of what that injury kind of carries, especially when it piles on. And just the idea that they got Bryan at the right time. And you're right, there are still guys in that locker room that have had their fair share of concussions. And really, honestly, dude, it's gotten to the point that the awareness has been so much, and I'm grateful for that. Don't get me wrong. There needs to be awareness on the subject. There needs to be so much done about it. But whenever I hear that somebody has a concussion these days, like, my body tenses up.
Yeah.
Because that word, I think, means so much more than it used to. And I'm so grateful that it does, though, because we can be proactive.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, one of my favorite memories of Bryan, when you talk about his high-impact style, and it's a weird memory because it's not WrestleMania 30 or any of the championships, that episode of SmackDown where he took on the Shield by himself, and he cleared the ring. I love that shit, man.
He was the first man to ever pin a member of the Shield in a 3-on-3 match.
Yeah, I mean, dude. It was great stuff. And you know that, to me, here's the thing, and I don't want to claim that I know Brian. Obviously, I don't. But again, as I've been kind of saying, with other comparisons, I've seen workers like Brian, and I think for him, he would rather step down and retire, in good health and this and that, than to keep going, break down, and watch his performance itself deteriorate. Because he's a guy, it's all or nothing. He's not going to give no in between. He doesn't half-ass anything. And he can leave knowing that his body of work is damn fine. Like, there are a lot of fine matches there, and I'm sure WWE will be plugging them all on the WWE network, so I won't have to do that. But I'm just glad that he gets to have that career, but he gets to walk out a winner. Like, I just keep coming back to that because this could have ended in a much horrible way.
Right.
In a horrifying way.
That's a really good point that we can close out on too, because I mean, you said it a few times. We're starting to repeat ourselves a little bit. But yeah, guys, really, Brian, first of all, Hall of Fame. Second of all, ecstatic that he is getting out at a point that he can live a healthy life and not get, permanently disabled from this. Third of all, just hope that he makes a full recovery and that the seizures don't persist, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, to kind of answer the one question that you posed, Ashton, because I don't really know if we got too into it. I really do think that WWE, their infrastructure as far as health and wellness is concerned, that'll probably see improvements too. Because I think now they'll take, not saying that they didn't take concussion seriously before. I'm not trying to make that claim, but I think they may even be even more thorough now because they really gave Brian that lengthy test, which exposed that lesion. So they might even do that more now. I think
I thought it wasn't the WWE that gave him that test.
Oh, who was it?
I'm not sure what the name of the doctor was, but he had to go up to New York City for it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, maybe though still WWE will take note and be like, okay, well, anytime that somebody, is in that position, we may refer them to somewhere else to get a really extensive test. I just think WWE is going to keep
WWE is going to seriously need to increase the size of their roster because the way that they run people into the ground, they need to be able to give people more of a break, and they need to, when somebody's injured, they need to let them fully recover before they come back.
To me, and you know what, I know people may pose the argument, well, if they gave him time off, they may look for, for other routes of financial compensation. Why not a paid leave system? You guys take time off and we'll pay you while you're at home with your families.
Honestly, if I'm being honest, dude, WWE should increase the size of their roster to close to 100.
Yeah.
Because right now they're in the low 70s. I think the NXT roster is like that 30 to 35 range, which is kind of perfect. But
right.
WWE, like the main roster, you've got 5 hours of television to fill. You need over 100 people on that roster. And it's I know that it sounds really like, sort of vague by just saying over 100, but if you take NXT, they have 1 hour of programming every week and they have 30 plus people on their roster. And it's a nice, healthy rotation that they can get where they can work certain people in certain weeks, but they don't have to have everyone on every week. WWE has 3 times that amount on any given show on their Raw shows. So why wouldn't you want at least triple the roster?
Yeah, and I know you and I have had really extensive conversations about WWE's current injury woes and things like that on a separate commentary, which I forget the title of it, but I know it's on the channel. So I would refer people to that.
I think that was actually our most recent topical video about the WWE and their treatment of their workers.
Yes. So I refer you guys to that video for a really in-depth conversation that kind of touches on some of the things we're discussing here. But just to kind of add to it,
it's amazing when we make commentaries that stay relevant for more than just a couple days.
I know, right? But I think just to add one little note to what you just said, and then we can close out if you want. That's why I'm really urging people. I know everybody's excited about Styles, Nakamura, and just all these guys, and I am too, don't get me wrong. But I'm just going to tell you, enjoy them while they're here, because with WWE's schedule, they're not going to be around forever. Brock isn't even going to be around forever, which is kind of weird to think about because I've gotten so used to Brock now, even with his schedule and his contract. But, I mean, the nature of the business, guys, you've either got to scale back the content or you've got to up your workers or just something. I
really do think that because they're never going to go down below 3 hours. It's just never going to happen. It's too financially, it's too profitable for them to do fewer than 3 hours.
Right.
So really, if you're not going to downsize on your hours, you should upsize on your roster size.
Completely agree. I have nothing more to add, man. If you want to close this out, you can.
All right, guys, we went over 20 minutes. Didn't intend to, but I feel like we've gotten everything out that we wanted to say. Um, we are definitely going to be doing our usual to us tonight. Expect a Lucha Underground comic book discussion either tomorrow or Friday, depending on how the schedules work out, and of course SmackDown tomorrow. But regardless, the big important thing here is Daniel Bryan got out while he could. You know, it's funny, we talk about Lucha Underground. One of the big lines from season 1 that's going to be memorable is, this business is about making money while you can. And Bryan made his while he could, and he got out when he could, and that's what really matters. So, guys, massive respect to Daniel Bryan. Really glad that he got out, and we'll see you all tonight.